Hey folks, welcome back to the Pulse. My name is Matt. This is Crypto Heartbeat, and it is 12:30 Central Texas time. Thanks for joining once again. There's a lot going on in our world right now. I don't know if you saw this, but X is about at 7 cents, and that is a big, big deal. So welcome back to the Pulse. Things are pumping. The Pulse is up. And today we're going to be talking about the nature of your sign. What is your signature? You got to be known for something, don't you? Yes, I think you must be known for something. Folks, we talk a lot about narrative and the story of what are we doing in crypto? What are we doing if not building community? And what is the benefit of community? Well, some people are like, well, I'll just take the cream off the top. And then others realize, hold on a second, there's more to this story than we know. And that's what I like to do here on Crypto Heartbeat is to help you understand why we're doing what we're doing. And I think that the long-term value of this community, you bringing the sign of your nature to the table, we're going to examine that because historically it's pretty interesting. What is a signature? That's what we'll be talking about today. It's going to be really interesting. In all the references that I'm going to pull together today because I've been thinking about this one for a bit. But let's get back into the chat and say hello to DGen Dougie Peach, my man. What's up, man? Good to see you, Mr. Matt. Godfather J6 always stepping in, facing reality. He's got more than the dab for us today. Good to see you. Sam Kemp taking care of business. Let's go. Let's go. Francis Powell, Ruskino. Hello, family. Scott, what's going on? Good morning from Brisbane, Australia. Fantastic to have you here. And the Peso dude. Hey, buenas tardes. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I'm glad you could jump in today. This is going to be, you're not getting TA here. There's a place you can go for that, folks. I'm excited. You're excited. We know that something special's coming, but it's more, it's bigger. And you know what? If you're not prepared for what's about to come, and you know what I would say? It's interesting because the term signature, what is this whole point of this? What is your signature? What are you known for? What's the sign of your nature? What is the nature of your sign? That's what we're going to be talking about. It's pretty exciting stuff because I think it's going to make you think. And that's what I try to do for you is to say, hey, be inspired to improve, but also recognize the story that you're telling because you're telling a story whether you want to or not. And sometimes that story doesn't reflect too well, and you might not know what story you're telling. Folks, it all comes down to your signature. What are you known for? David Lee, all the way from southwestern Indiana. If you guys don't know, David Lee came to my dad's funeral. He drove 7.5 hours from southwestern Indiana. He came to share love with a brother in need. And that is the essence of community, is when people care for others, they give of themselves. And that's what I encourage you to do all the time. That's it. That's it, folks. Show some love. Rich Liberation with the love and Hexy Quinn. What's up, Hexy Quinn? Thanks for coming back and being here. It's always great to see you. Crypto Jeeper, finally catching another live stream. Love this project. We're going to be talking about all of it. Everything from Texan to Ophir to Freedom Swap to Unifier and all the other things coming in between. I may even break off a piece of hope. What does HOPE stand for, folks? Health, opportunity, poverty, and education. But we'll get there when it's time. Nico is here. What's up, Nico? Early morning in the future. Thanks for being here. Waking up in the land of the Southern Cross. Appreciate you so much. I know I'm known for my mustache. Those that know. If you've got the mustache, the question is, do you use mustache wax? Because that, to me, is the sign of a good mustache. Mixed Crypto Arts is here. Hey, bud, what's going on, man? David Lee with the love. DJ Dougie P says Mr. Lee and gives him the fist bump. All right, so check this out. This is pretty cool. So what is a signature? If you saw from the thumbnail, you notice it is what you've heard of a signet ring, right? I've got a signet ring on right now. What is the symbol? What are you known for? What is a signature? Back in the 1400s, things really, you had a unique mark that you would make. And it was actually a sign. And that sign, if you think back and look at the historical references to a signature ring, what was a signature? But a ring or something that you would impress upon a wax, a dollop of wax. And why would you have this? It's actually really interesting because all the things that we create today with our signatures on our wallets and all of this is really to maintain privacy, but also certify authority. And so, what you're doing is you're certifying authority that you own a wallet. You're signing a document, right? This is a unique mark that is representative of you. But in the original signet or signature is truly a sign that you would make, a mark that you would make. And in this case, what they would use wax, and they would pour out wax onto where the letter or whatever it is that they were trying to seal, and they would press into that wax the impression, the unique mark, the signature. And of course, signet rings obviously come from that. It's a certain style that has an impression on it, and that you would sign with your mark. So this has so much loaded up into it for us to consider. The first thing is this idea of, we've heard people talk about, oh, this is the signature series. What is the signature series? It sounds pretty fwa to me. But if you had some signature series, you would say, I care so much about this that I would sign my name to it. It represents me. You know, if you've got a Mercedes Benz, you see the signatures under the hood. Ferrari, all of these things that you know are the signature series. People take pride in what they sign. They want to be identified with that thing. And the question is, what are you identified with? What is the nature of your sign? What's the impression that you leave? What's the mark that you make? And that's what we're talking about today. And if you look at your own life, well, what is a signature but a representation? As we kick things back to the beginning, we were made in the image of God. Really? This is really interesting. Hold on, that's an impression. So you're made in the image. Are you God? No. But you're made in the image of God. You know what's really fascinating about that is you are image bearers. This idea that we would bear the image. Well, what is that image? Is it because you've got 2 eyes and ears and limbs? You're built on this framework, or is there something more to what that represents? But this image that you carry is a representation of authority. You're representing something. You're an ambassador. And I think what's really interesting about the nature of signatures, for keeping things private to representing authority, being something that's official, and also it being set in wax, that seal is not broken, authentic. And that's a big part of all of it. So the question I've got for you is, what is your impression that you leave? What is the legacy that you are leaving? What is the image you are bearing? What is the nature of your sign? It's something interesting because, I mentioned in the beginning, we're image bearers. Well, let me ask you this. What image are you bearing? And there's an interesting distinction between the image that you bear, right? Being created in the image of, right? We have kids and they look like us, right? Ideally. Right? And you have this image that's passed along. What does that represent? It's an interesting concept of image bearing, but there's a difference between an image and a likeness. And so, what is the character of you versus the image of you? Right? I can see things, I can judge by a book by its cover, I can make assumptions about you, and I can get a sense for your impression that you leave. You leave a certain scent or taste in my mouth, right? You have a certain character. But there's an interesting thing about this idea of likeness because it reflects our character. Who are we? So we're made in a certain image, but what is our likeness? We're being constantly crafted into a better version of ourselves. But what is that likeness? What does it look like? Who are we representing? One of the things that's interesting in Haggai 2, which is a great book to read, Haggai 2, it says, the Lord God Almighty says, all of the silver and gold is mine. And he's using this guy, Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, to rebuild the tabernacle. And what's fascinating about it is God says, "From this day on, I will bless you. I will make you like my signet ring, for I have chosen you." Interesting. So, in this scenario, in this specific, part of the Bible, it says this person, Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, who is assigned work to do, will be like my signet ring. I've chosen you to bear my image. I I'm asking you to be my impression on the people. It's interesting. We don't realize that we have an impression on people, whether you've decided to or not. There's a story that you are telling that impresses something upon people. What is that thing? What is that impression? What are you? What story are you telling? And the reason I bring this all up, and you watch Crypto Heartbeat and you're like, yeah, this is interesting, right? I like to come and learn, but also to be challenged. This coming future, because in the same book, Haggai 2, it says, I will once again shake the heavens of the earth, the sea and the dry land. There's a shaking that's happening in our world. And the question is, are you being shaken? Or are you one who is standing firm? And as we understand our character and in what image we were created, in what likeness we represent, we should hold steadfast to the impression that we leave. And what is that impression, right? And I won't go into a lot of detail about the kinds of impressions people leave, but you do have a signature, a brand, something that you're known for, whether you decide to or not. And it's been said that if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So, in this whole time that we have of the bear market and maybe a little bit of hope that Pulse Chain is going to come soon, V3, Hex is pumping. We think we've hit the bottom. Man, we think about a future. Imagine what it's going to be like. To me, what's happening is we have to prepare ourselves and others for what is about to come. Because right now, Babylon is burning, meaning the core current financial system is burning. And there's a new financial system. And we have a responsibility to animate that financial system with the likeness, the character, and the signature. We have to decide what signature we're going to use. Because what's interesting about tools is tools are basically inert. Tools are tools. How you use that tool is different. You can use a sword to cut somebody's head off, and you can use a sword to knight. Right? I knight you, sir. There's different things, and what you do with that tool is essentially leaving its impression upon the future. And so there are those of us, I think, that are mature enough to understand that, hold on a second, I actually have to consciously think about what legacy or what impression I'm leaving on people. What is the story? And I think that when you're younger, you're like, I'm just doing my own thing. And you may have a certain personality. But what's really fascinating is if you don't decide where you're going to go, you're going to end up somewhere else. And this idea of planning and thinking through these things and recognizing that actually what people see is your character because everyone is judging. And so we know when things are inauthentic or unauthentic. It's when the signature or the impression doesn't match, right? It's not consistent. But here's the thing, you have to decide what it is and whom are you representing and what are you all about? Because here's the thing, you're going to get blown upon the wind because things are going to get really, really spicy. Things are going to get really, really bad. And we know that when it comes to political upheaval and unrest, we see all the things that are happening in our cities. We're seeing all the issues as it relates to supply chains. We see lying, we see cheating and stealing, we see pandemics, we see all of this stuff that is authoritarians on the rise. We see unrest. I think it's important as we look at this future, which I think is ushering in a future of potentially abundance. But we have to make a decision about how we're going to utilize the abundance that's coming and how you're going to animate that tool of resources, because it says, all the silver and gold is mine, says the Lord. So if it's all his, what is he doing? Well, in this process of us representing and impressing upon those that we come into contact with, there is something that we leave behind, an impression. What is that impression that you are leaving? I know what kind of impression I want to leave, right? I don't want people to see me. I want people to see the grace and peace of God in and through my life. Well, how do you do that? Well, you have to advocate for people. I mentioned David Lee. We get outside of ourselves and think about others, and we go, hold on, somebody's struggling. Somebody's got a challenge. Let's come to their aid. Advocacy is a great thing to be about. Seeking to serve, right? How do you become great? Do you become great by telling everyone you're great? You ever go to a party and have somebody who's just talking about themselves all the time? Oh, that's lovely. That's just lovely. You know how we treat people like that. It's the wrong impression, right? Be interested, not interesting. That's my advice to you, at least. Be interested, not interesting. Just a basic skill in life, right? Because it's not the people who tell us they're great. It's the people who serve us that are great. It's interesting. There is a book called Good to Great and Built to Last. And in that book, or those books, it talked about great companies. And it was interesting because it's a secular book. And it was interesting because in Good to Great, it talked about level 5 leaders. And it took these leader types and it broke them into categories. And it said these top level 5 leaders, what was unique about them is that when something bad happened, these leaders took responsibility upon themselves for the problem. And when things went really, really well, they gave the credit to others. And what was really interesting about this is because the author of the book was not somebody who knew the scriptures, was not a Christian person, was a secular researcher. And what was fascinating, he said, what was common about all these level 5 leaders was their faith. And I thought that was interesting. Not that it was a specific faith, but that they had this belief that they were in service to something greater. So what's really fascinating about this is this idea that, hold on a second, the first will be last and the last will be first and the meek will inherit the earth. What? So you mean becoming a servant is how you become great? Yes, advocating for other people. And what is greatness? Is it greatness in man's eyes? And what is the product and what is the benefit of greatness? Is it a lot of money and bigger storehouses and lording it over people and socially signaling? Or is really winning in all of this a peace that transcends all understanding? And I assure you, it doesn't come the way you think it will come. It comes from serving and giving and letting go. And in that, it helps others. You advocate for others to win. So if you want to win in this life, advocate for others, serve others, help them win. What's so great about the blockchain, and what's so great about this era of a new financial system where Babylon is burning within an hour, is the fact that there are tools of the blockchain that remove counterparty risk. They remove middlemen, and they create a scenario in which we can have a little bit more trust that what we think the contract is going to do, it's going to do. Because all of these centralized things, governments, Federal Reserve banks, FTX, Celsius, centralized authorities who have control of the levers are corrupt and not trustworthy. And it shouldn't be a surprise to us because that is the nature of sin. That's the nature of our faulty, flawed system, is that when we get an opportunity to take advantage of someone, a lot of times we do, right? People that gain power don't want to let go of it. One of the amazing things about the blockchain is this idea of truly decentralizing things and getting it out of the hands of corrupt individuals. And what I love about it is it's not just like, well, we think this guy's better, so we'll give him the control. Well, yeah, until he's dead and his son comes along and he's a pain in the ass. No, no, no. This is actually computer code that's distributed across the ledger, and everyone agrees in a consensus that this is true. And there's something really powerful about this idea because what it does is it says, hey, we're going to insert trust into a trustless system. It's really fascinating. And then we're going to come together and we're going to declare something. Because you know what's interesting about authority and signatures and all of these things that represent who we are is that what we're doing in crypto is we're taking proxies for our labor, which in a way is a representation of you, a piece of your creative nature. You know that your time, energy, and effort gets put into a proxy, a piece of paper representing. It actually represents your creative ability. And we're just handing that over, in my opinion, to the devil himself. What if we worked together and we said, no, no, we're going to pull this outside of those centralized planners' control. And I'm going to take a piece of me. What is it? It's my time, it's my energy, it's my effort. You get paid by the hour. You put it into a proxy. That is your labor. That's your private property. You've created this thing. Whether it's passive or you dug a ditch, it's a representation of you. And so as you contribute that thing into some system, in this case, the blockchain, that is decentralized, that's immutable, that you have a little bit of faith, you're like, well, I don't think they're going to take the internet down. You don't know, maybe, possibly. And then you think about, well, what if I participated with other people? Well, wouldn't it be nice to know who those other people are? Are they trustworthy? Who are these people? Oh, they're Hexicans and Texicans. Oh, they're pirates. Oh, what are they like? Wow, they're regular people. Wow, just like you and me. Well, I can relate to them. Huh. And there's a guy named David Lee, and he comes to your dad's funeral when no one from your high school came. None of my friends from high school came to my dad's funeral. But a guy I had just met in the Hexican community drove all the way from southwestern Indiana to sit with me. What should that say to you? Love covers a multitude of sins. It's an amazing, amazing thing, community. But it's not that it just exists. It's that it's expressed. Take a look out onto Twitter and look where Hexray Vision was. Hexray Vision, Fashion Coder, Hexiest Man in the World, Hexray Chick. All these people were at a meetup in Utah somewhere. Salt Lake City. People getting there. Maddie Allen was there. It was amazing. It's just incredible. And to see the joy in those people's faces, that's real value, folks. Just because it doesn't show up on the chart and it doesn't show up in your wallet doesn't mean it doesn't have value. But in this process, I think what we're doing and trying to do, and what I'm trying to do, is to spur you on, to help you relate to the fact that, you know, you may not see this future. You're like, wow, I hope that the Pulse chain launches, and I hope that I hope I can keep my nose above water. Well, let me just challenge you with this. What if you had a wholesale change? What if the change in your life was so dramatic that literally you could do anything you wanted with your time? It's funny. When I first came into Hex, Maddie was talking about sudden wealth syndrome. Well, what is sudden wealth syndrome? It's a shock to your system because you've been working inside of a slavery-based consumer system. And now you've bought your time back and you don't know what the heck to do. And a lot of times when you find yourself in those situations, you can do some really good things or some really bad things. And I see that this whole system is changing. And as the system changes, whatever horse that you've decided to ride, the potential for a wholesale change, well, the fundamentals are changing. The question is, are you going to be riding a horse that's going to take you somewhere? And if so, what does that mean for you? And have you thought about it? Because I don't think you actually want sudden wealth syndrome, which is kind of humorous to me, but I get it because any shock to the system, any change in things makes you go, who am I and what am I doing? Because my identity for so many people has been tied up in what they do, not who they are, who they were created to represent, what their signature is, which is ultimately the impression that you leave, which is what people would call legacy. What's Richard Hart's signature? Richard, meaning strong and mighty. To rule, rich, heart. Mr. Pitts, rise above your name. I hope you become your name. What is your legacy? What is your name? What are you represented? What's your brand? What's your signature? What's the impression you're leaving? It's a really powerful idea. This idea that you were created in a certain image, but you are being conformed to a certain likeness. And that likeness is character. I was thinking about the things that I say to my son. And I think about it in terms of what my dad didn't say to me. And I don't judge him for that at all. Actually, I love my dad. I'm really sad he's gone. But I think about it and I think, you know what? We have choices to make every single day. And the question is, what choices are we going to make? What impression are we going to leave? What are we representing? Are we somebody that's out there fighting in the community, putting people down, criticizing them just to get a shot of dopamine? Right? I just got like to fight. I've been there recently. And you think about it, you let go of these things and you go, all right, hold on a second. I got to get centered. I've got to realize that, hold on a second. I'm going to assume that this future is going to be very, very different. And me and you and all those that are in the chat and all those that are a part of this DeFi wonderland are going to be called upon for more than just buying a Coca-Cola at the corner store. You're going to be called on to because you're going to be a person of influence, because you're going to have the resources. What's your responsibility? And so I would encourage you. Are you just representing yourself? Right? Are you representing an idol? Last night, which, I don't want to admit it, but unfortunate, is I saw a tweet from Elon Musk. And Elon Musk was very happy. He always, shares stuff about Tesla, or he shares stuff about funny memes or Dogecoin or SpaceX or something like that. He's always got something going on, right? And so I like to follow him and see what he's up to. Well, I guess there's a new version of their new satellites for Starlink, and they had put some up in orbit. And they put a camera on the back of the Starlink, and it opened up, right? So they showed it coming out and opening up. Well, in the background was the Earth, and the Earth was round. And of course, snarky Crypto Heartbeat, which I shouldn't have done, said, "What is that round thing behind that satellite?" And of course, I was the classic troll, not taking my own advice. And what ensued was a really interesting, somewhat humorous, but also sad set of commentary that followed. And what's really interesting about it's not I'm not a flat earther, just for the record. But it's interesting. It's like, hold on a second. I shouldn't be participating in this silliness, right? I shouldn't be drawing people off sides. I shouldn't be poking people. I don't want people to poke me. Why would I do that? Right? Even though it was fun to be a troll, it happens to us all. And we get pulled off track, and we're not representative of the impression that we want to leave. And if we really think about it and we examine our own hearts, we're like, what's wrong with you, Crypto Heartbeat? Stop doing that. Share love with people, encourage people, help them, advocate for them. We don't need to be putting guns at people's heads in the foxhole. And that was obviously, tongue-in-cheek and fun. There's much, much more damaging things that happen in this world. But you know what? It's almost like a debit or a credit account, right? You're either crediting the account or you're debiting it. And I think what's really fascinating about that in relationships is the fact that we would take or we would give. And I would say this, if you need to get your self-worth or value from people, life is not going to be easy for you. And so many of us, so many people have had and been raised by people who have not shown love, right? Have not affirmed us. And so we look for every possible place to have affirmation. And then what do we find is we don't get affirmation. And sometimes we just say, you know what, it's too hard. I'll just numb myself. Folks, that is the classic scenario of this world. Feeling alone, feeling like you're not a part of something, you don't belong and you don't have any value. And then on top of it, you got people telling you that you're here by accident and that you're just the descendant of a monkey. I'm here to tell you, you are valuable, you are important, and you have work to do. And the fact that you know about this tool called the blockchain and DeFi, and the fact that you're around it and aware of it and paying attention to it, everything is changing in the financial world. And boy, it's going to get messy before it gets amazing. But the only way it gets amazing isn't because there's a blockchain and not because there's a smart contract. It's because of you and how you see other people and how you build community. Because honestly, this is a declaration of our own value. What is fiat currency? Fiat currency is a declaration, right? It used to be that fiat was backed by something. Fiat means by decree. We are decreeing this is value. This is, legal tender. It's official. This piece of paper is good for all debts, public and private. And honestly, it's just a note. It's actually a financial instrument. It's actually a Federal Reserve note. It's a note. It's not backed by gold or silver. It doesn't have any inherent or intrinsic value anymore. And so what is fiat? But every country basically said, hey, this is the thing. This is the printed impression of what we're going to call valuable. We'll put our first president on it. We'll put some numbers on it. We'll have a fancy design. We'll try to keep people from, copying it. But at the end of the day, it's just a signature of what? And what does it represent? The United States of America and a bunch of warmongers? I don't know. What does it represent to you? And you think about that and you say, well, what is this idea of community nationally, your country, the story that's being told with the impression of representations of you and your time and your energy and your effort and a proxy for your labor? What is it representing? And so people ask me all the time, why are you doing the Texan token? Because people have freedom knit into their hearts, but we can't do it alone. And so what do people do that are self-determined? They say, you know what? I think we might be able to do this a different way and it might have a better outcome. Rather than shipping $100 billion and sending Janet Yellen to shake the hand of a comedian and to give them our tax dollars, maybe we ought to think about how we serve our neighbor as ourselves. And I mean right here. And so why Texas? Well, one, because it's the most independent-minded group of people. Two, it's because 66% of all the people already agree that we need to go a different way. And three, because the human heart is knit. It's knit in our hearts to be free. But I think what's amazing about this is we have to decree it because there is no authority above God. And how do we get our rights? We don't get them from the state. See, that's the thing. Well, we'll go to the Supreme Court over this one. This is what the Supreme Court says. The courts are lower than the authority of your sovereignty, your personal sovereignty, because it is self-evident that all men are created equal, and women included in that. All are created equal, and they're given by their creator certain unalienable rights. These are self-evident. These are not things that are given you by the state. So if they can't give them to you, they can't take them away. They are self-evident and they exist. So what is it to do? Well, everything that we've ever created is what we think is best for our life, liberty, happiness. The idea of America is an absolute incredible idea because it's based on decentralization. What are we trying to do? We're trying to reboot the damn system. Why? Because the idea of America is beautiful, but it's an idea. It's not dirt. That idea has been completely contorted and it has become bloated and it is not representing what actually achieves our life, liberty, and happiness. And so there comes a time in human events where you have to abolish or change these things. And why would we do that? Because we care about the future. And there is a breaking point that we all have where we say no. But we're mature people who are going to do this in a legal, mature, fair, and I would say peaceful way. And crypto is helping that. And to me, that's why it's it's inevitable, because the human heart you cannot keep it under a bushel. It has to shine. And we were made for that, because that's the impression, that's the image that that's the image that we bear, one of freedom. And it's not freedom to lord over other people. It's not freedom to just go our own way, but it's our freedom to care and to advocate and to live in harmony and community with people. But you know what's interesting is we're image bearers of what? Right? These are given to us by a creator. Well, who is the creator? Well, if we bear that image and we're being conformed into his likeness, well, he's just, loving, caring, right? What is this? Fair, just, kind. Think about the fruit that comes from all this: love and joy and peace and patience, kindness and gentleness, self-control. Good Lord, we don't have that. This idea of common sense. These are the ideals that we see, and we say, what is happening? We need to stand up against it. And what are the ways in which we do it? If you're somebody in Texas and you haven't called or written or communicated with your representative who's in the process of determining whether they're going to represent you or not, you need to tell them, hey, the people of Texas deserve the right to vote. That's it. You don't have to advocate for one way or the other of their voting. You need to advocate for them to have a voice in a referendum in November. And we have to tell people that. We just have to tell people that. 66% in a recent poll. What would the world look like if the 9th largest economy in the world was independent? They would lead. Texas would lead the world. How? How would we lead the world? It's interesting. There's a lot of ramifications of showing people that it is possible to chart a different course. Don't be blown by the wind, my friends. Understand that you have a signature and you have authority and you've been given certain rights and that you've been created in the image of a creator, and you are being conformed into the likeness of a substantial, significant, with authority person who leaves an impression. And think about it, because you have a choice. You can curse or you can praise with that mouth of yours. Which one are you going to do? It's a constant battle, my friends. It is a constant battle. But we have something that we've never seen before in human history. Bitcoin went up, 69,000 million % or whatever it is. Hex, 623 days, 10,000x. And 3-4% of the population knows about crypto? Let's go. Let's go. We've got opportunity upon opportunity, but we have to work together. And if we don't work together, and that's why I use this terminology that we're one beggar helping another beggar find food. And it's not like I didn't say we're one king helping another king find a kingdom. It's probably more what we should be saying, because who are we? Are we beggars? Are we people without? Have we been cast out into the street and that all we can do is scrounge for scraps? Or are we meant for more? I think we're meant for more. What's amazing about the blockchain, what's amazing about decentralized finance, especially with trustless yield like Texan and Hex, is that you can show people where the food is. And boy, I'll tell you what, we're coming into a time when it becomes mainstream. That means its utility is going to be literally, an exchange of value. Right now, it's speculation. This is probably the most exciting time to be alive. Is there a lot of unrest? Is there a lot of difficulty? Are there wars and rumors of wars? Yes. But the question I would ask you is, which side are you going to be on? Who are you going to represent? What is your signature? What's the impression you're going to leave? What is the nature of your sign? What is your signature? Who are you going to be about? What are you going to be about? What story are you telling? And what are you being represented by? Because whether you decide to or not, you're telling a story. You're representing something. And here's my suggestion. Moses goes up to the mountain. He gets the 10 commandments. All that's happening up there. And what happens? Aaron's down with all the people, and they build a golden calf and they worship it. We are building golden calves all over the place because we're not keeping the main thing, and we're not working together. We're creating division, and we are being distracted and being manipulated. We need to shed that stuff, and we need to come together. I think it's Asbury College in Kentucky. Is that the one that was like had a worship service for like 2 weeks straight, and it caught on all over the place? This idea, this movement of unity. I see it. I see it in crypto. It's amazing. Working together, folks. That's how we do it. We work together. Our made-up internet money is better than the government's made-up internet money. Richard Hart, quote, direct from him. All right, let's get back into the chat. Thanks for joining the Pulse today. Magnus, what's going on? Hey, folks, good to see you. I hope I didn't get rugged. I see people are still here. Good evening, Nico. Disregard. Sorry, no problem. Hornet UK. No one seems to be factoring the virus in 2025. Yeah, they're probably playing in that one. If you pay your $25, you can get the book from Bill Gates himself. He wrote the book on the next one. So if you want to see like the spoiler alert, you can. I'm really curious. I've been seeing, you never know what to believe on Twitter. But Moderna and Pfizer and its payments to the NIH, what, $400 million in royalty payments. We'll see how that pans out. I'm sure that the House is going to look into that. Funkmaster Hex, afternoon greetings. Hexagon, what's up all? Tin Top is here. Magnus, the Lord is only giving us a stewardship, right? And what is a stewardship? Right, this idea, all the silver is and gold is mine, right? It's not mine, right? Like God says, it's mine. You're a representative of it because you're temporary. You might live 100 years, maybe 120 if you're super lucky. You're temporary. So anything that you may have, anything, your abilities, your skills, your experiences, your breath, you're a representative. You're a steward. It is not yours. But what's amazing is when you hold on loosely to things and you're generous, give away what you want to receive. 6.8 cents. Magnus, thanks for the update. Hex Bean, salute to you. Nice mentoring, Crypto Heartbeat. You speak with wisdom. Hey, one beggar trying to help another beggar find food. And not everybody's interested in this stuff, right? Everybody wants to talk about TA and your bags being pumped. That's fine. I'm consistent about this content. Hey, I'm preparing the foundation for the Renaissance, my friends. Thanks for joining. Crypto 7 is pumping. Hex, he sure is, because he is en fuego. Tortoise Johnny, good stuff as always. Appreciate that. David Lee with the love. Income tax equals proportional slavery. There you go. There you go. The best of the best community out there, the legendary David Lee, everyone. If you're able to exit the legacy system, you need to help as many people as possible make it exit. Amen to that, dude. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's what you do. I dare say it is your duty. Never shut the door behind you. That's one beggar helping another beggar find food. It's exactly what Peso Dude's saying. You've got to help as many people as you can. The question is, do you give a beep about anyone else except yourself? And it's hard, man. I'll tell you, I've repeated myself a million times. They're like, what do you mean this fake internet money, dude? Like, well, you're going to be coming to me. So I'm at least trying to throw you a bone now. Just be aware of what's going on. And the people that catch it, you're like, hallelujah. And then you benefit from all the community stuff. It's amazing. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Hey, Hex Father Matt, Hexonium, good to see you, man. Appreciate you. You can tell it's real because it looks so fake. That's exactly right. T Hex, good to see you. What camera did look dodgy though? Okay, I won't even go there. Hornet UK, good to see you. Tortoise Johnny said you got to get wild sometimes. You got to feel life. Feel the thunder in your chest. Woohoo. There you go. Well, yeah, the great enthusiasms, right? Are you hiding out? Got your head buried in the sand? Wonder what Hex and E-Hex are going to do. If so, force parity. Well, parity is going to be interesting. It's going too fast. We will see dumping. But if parity is a sort of natural law, then they're chained together on PLS. I think that what's going to be interesting is they're going to have their own prices. They're going to have their own liquidity. There's a lot that's going to have to be figured out in the first couple weeks and months. The bridges and where the value goes and all that. It's going to be incredible. Boy, I'll tell you, you want to talk about volatility, you want to talk about strange ratios. When this thing launches, man, it is going to bam. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Be careful. Be careful out there, folks. I don't give you financial advice, but be careful because in these early stages of everything, this is where you can get wrecked because you think it's going one way and then it goes the other way. I classically make that mistake. So just stay out of it. Stay out of it. HODL. Hexbean, we used to want to separate from Canada here in Quebec. Probably still many people do. It's amazing. And I think we're seeing more and more of independence movements because people are like, I've had enough of this. You're coming after my money and my kids and my entire livelihood. There's got to be a breaking point. There's got to be a point where you say no. It's like the farmers in the Netherlands just be like, I've got to make a living. And you're making up this stuff about nitrogen and climate change. I mean, literally, talk about worshiping. Do you realize the Nord Stream pipeline and what the U.S. and its Western allies did to the Nord Stream is like one of the worst, quote unquote, if you believe in this climate science baloney, is that if you're talking about CO2 as it relates to methane, because that's the core gas, right? This natural gas was going through that pipeline. No one cares about that. But in this act of sabotage, probably one of the worst things for atmospheric CO2. I don't buy the stuff. It doesn't bother me, but no one's concerned about that because it's for... Anyway, get me started on that. Samantha, happy Tuesday to you. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Good to see you there. Thanks for all that you do. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. I want to get to 10,000. We're at like 9518. So if you haven't subscribed and you're watching this, please subscribe. Help me get to 10,000 subs. That'd be awesome. That'd be fun. Hey. That's because everybody was doing whippets of the burning bush man. Dude, whippets. That's the old whippet real good. That is nitrous, right? Whippets? I think that's nitrous. Burning bush man. There you go. Andrew, what's going on? Do you not worry that you're using the same protocol for every project may take away from the Texan token? No, because when you tokenize communities, trustless yield, think about this. Hex has a total of like 435 or 335,000 holders, which is representative of probably about half if you consider, each person may have two wallets. So let's say there's about 150,000 people in Hex. That's over the last 3+ years, folks. That's not a lot of people, like if you think about in terms of the population. And if in fact the growth rate of crypto, and then if they go CBDCs, pushing towards digital, the adoption rate at like, let's say 50% of the population or 30% of the population, there's so many people in this world that you go to centers of trust. Because here's the thing, folks. I mean, shouldn't be a mystery to you or a surprise to you that I would say this, but Richard Heart ain't for everybody, folks. If you're being intellectually honest, you understand exactly what I mean. And that's the truth of it. And so why would you try to convince someone to compromise maybe one of the ways in which they see the world? Why don't you bring crypto to them? Why don't you embrace where their trust already exists? And so the protocol in this idea of trustless yield is a narrative. And the narrative within communities, they either see that it does something. I don't create the value in the Texan token. I created the software with a team and we gave a gift. That's it. If the people in the Texas Nationalist Movement or people that are here or people that, if you don't take responsibility for it, just like within Hex, it has no value. It's zeros and ones, folks, on a blockchain. That's it. It's this idea, though. Why do I talk about this stuff? Because we work together to decree our own value. That's why Hex is such a miracle, because there's enough pirates out there, 150,000 of them with some real money, that created something that's a miracle and have all this byproduct of benefit. I want to advocate for other people in this world to have a similar experience and to understand that we decouple from this war machine and this consumer slavery model when we work together and care about others in addition to ourselves. So I just want to go where there's some kindling. I want to light a fire where the grass is dry. meaning people are in community already. They trust one another. And if they can see the vision for a life that's different and give them hope, folks, they can decree their own value. And Bob's your uncle. It's a miracle, but that's why. But it's a great question. But these tools of trustless yield, most people, they don't realize, like, think about this. You could have been somebody who got into FTX or Celsius because you had a buddy who was really into it, but you didn't. You had a buddy who was into Richard Hart and real DeFi. Imagine you went the other way. You'd have lost your shirt, but you didn't. So I feel really good about how do we bring people into true DeFi, teach them the basic tenets, bring them into the Pulse chain, show them how all of this stuff works, unlocking value, and teach them how to take personal responsibility for their future and give them the tools to do it. Unlock global generosity. It's not one man's work, but it requires vision, and it requires leadership, and it requires education, and it requires a contract. That's the cool thing. It's open. You can do it. But the question is, the most important thing is, do you believe you can do it? You can do it. Hex Rich, read words, man. Keep it up. It's awesome. My opinion is no, because they're specific to their own communities. Yeah, and it means something different to them, right? This idea of, I might talk about an endowment, but how many people actually care about independence of Texas? When it comes to the world, not many. Even the people in Texas, many of them don't even think about it. But what is it for you? And what is it for the folks in the Philippines in Ophir? And what is it for the church in Western Africa? And what is it for the people in the Western Cape of South Africa, or in Quebec, or in Scotland? There's different things for different people, and it helps them achieve something, because what is it? It's unlocking value by decreeing it together in community. It's powerful stuff. And we benefit from it because it comes into our ecosystem, right? More people in Pulse Chain, more no coiners. We want them using Pulse X. You know what I'm saying? SB, great words, Matt. Keep it up. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Fourth turning and generations are a good recommendation for these times. Absolutely. This is a time that tries men's hearts. This is the time that we have to step and fix this stuff. And that's what we're doing. That's the gift of the blockchain. It's helping us do it. Internet was beginning and will be the end of globalization. Now they're trying it with AI. Oh, man, I'll tell you what. The surfer voice. Dude, Spicoli, man. I thought we'd have some pizza on our time, man. Mixed Crypto Arts, nice compliment for Crypto 7. And Fuego, translation in Spanish, literally means on fire. It's what you call anything that is awesome. I love Crypto 7 and I go way back. Adam, let's go Texan. Appreciate it. Better late than never. Michael, thanks for joining us. Hex Farmer, good to see you. Just popping in. Hello, you beautiful people. And then, of course, Daniel at Hillar Tech. Is that right? Hillar Tech LLC. Folks, thanks for joining the Pulse today. Just remember, you are telling a story, and you have authority, and you are created for a purpose, and there's a plan. And you are about to see something really special happen, because this world is shaking and Babylon is burning and the entire financial system is changing, and you're at the right place at the right time. The question is, what impression are you going to leave? What is your signature, which is a representation of who you are, who do you represent, and what's your legacy going to be? Thanks for joining the Pulse today. Thanks for being a part of this community. Share love with some other people, and do not mess with Texas. Take care, everybody.